Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Today we're delving into that controversial deal between Trump and Zelensky, the one that's been causing a stir.
I'm really curious about this deal. What exactly makes it so shocking?
Well, it's interesting because this deal is shrouded in secrecy. It's like a backstage pass to some major political drama, you know?
Yeah, I get that.
The negotiations were frankly unexpected. On one hand, Trump's supporters claim the move was necessary to further U.S. interests, arguing that it was a strategic decision in a complex geopolitical landscape.
Right. And on the flip side, his opponents say it's a textbook abuse of power, questioning both the motives and the execution.
Exactly. There's this big divide, supporters seeing it as a bold step to secure key U.S. interests in Ukraine, while critics view it as a secretive, possibly self-serving maneuver, raising loads of concerns about transparency.
Yeah, transparency is a hot topic here, for sure.
The details of the deal are murky, with very few specifics emerging about what was actually negotiated. We know there was significant pressure applied, with Trump deeply involved and pushing hard with Zelensky during these, high-stakes discussions.
It definitely sounds like there's more to the story than just a simple handshake deal.
Absolutely. The whole setup, is layered on a long history of U.S.-Ukraine relations. This isn't just an isolated incident. There are multiple agendas in play, and the potential implications extend far beyond just bilateral issues.
So we're talking about the kind of deal that could, reshape parts of the international scene, right?
Precisely. Think about it. The secretive nature of the negotiations, the absence of broader consultation. It's like an exclusive club meeting with only a few insiders deciding the fate of much larger international relations.
Yeah. That level of secrecy definitely raises questions about accountability.
And accountability is key here. The fact that other stakeholders weren't kept in the loop makes many wonder. Was this really the right approach? Do we even know what trade-offs were made?
Right, and I mean, if you're leaving out so many voices, can you really say the deal was in the best interest of the American people?
That's the crux, isn't it? On one hand, some argue that this deal served a necessary strategic purpose during turbulent times. On the other hand, critics see it as a dangerous overreach, a deviation from established norms that protect democratic checks and balances.
It's kind of like a high-wire act, balancing national interest against ethical governance, yes?
Exactly. It's like walking on a tightrope with heavy consequences on both sides. There's even debate over whether the pressure Trump applied might have compromised the integrity of the process.
But don't you think there's room to consider that sometimes extreme measures, however controversial, are taken in moments of national urgency?
I hear you, but I have to respectfully challenge that view. It's hard to overlook the implications of a deal made behind closed doors, where the lack of accountability could set a dangerous precedent.
That's a fair point. Secrecy in such deals can be a slippery slope.
Diving a little deeper, the complexity of U.S.-Ukraine relations plays a major role here. There's a long, tangled history that led to this meeting, decades of diplomatic maneuvers, evolving alliances, and shifting power dynamics.
And that history makes it even more challenging to untangle who really benefits from the deal and who might be disadvantaged.
Right. And then we have the political fallout. As soon as the deal broke in the news, pundits and politicians on both sides of the aisle immediately began, leveraging it for their own agendas.
Which really shows just how polarizing the whole thing is, each side interpreting the motives through their own ideological lens.
Absolutely. And there's a heated debate about whether this was a strategic masterstroke or a reckless gamble that could, have long-lasting repercussions on U.S. foreign policy.
Speaking of repercussions, the international community's reaction has been a mixed bag, right? Some see the deal as moving forward on strategic interests, while others condemn it as a misstep.
Exactly. It's like a global tug of war. One side praises it as a bold step in complex times, and the other warns it might undermine essential democratic processes.
And that tension makes the situation incredibly fluid. Almost like every new detail that emerges could tip the scales in one direction or the other.
Precisely, and that's what keeps the conversation alive. The stakes are high, and every revelation adds another layer of complexity to this already controversial issue.
It's almost like watching a suspense thriller where the plot keeps thickening, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a political drama unfolding in real time. With every twist, more questions pop up.
So many questions remain about what was exchanged and, about who really came out on top.
Exactly. And the call for greater transparency and accountability is louder than ever. People want to know, what were the actual terms? Why were such critical decisions made behind closed doors?
There's definitely a public demand for clarity here. A need to ensure that future negotiations don't fall into the same, murky territory.
And that's the takeaway. This deal isn't just a one-off incident, but rather a reflection of a broader, ongoing struggle in political governance and diplomacy.
Right. And while some argue that such deals can be necessary in times of international crisis, the shadow of secrecy makes it a hard sell for those demanding ethical accountability.
Exactly. And though there might be a strategic argument in favor, the intense scrutiny reminds us that democratic processes must never be overshadowed by backroom negotiations.
In the end, whether this deal proves to be a bold move or a grave miscalculation, its impact on both US politics and international relations will likely echo for a long time. Thanks for diving into this with such insight today.